What's up YouTube, Shamu Aquariums here, bringing you guys another video. And today I'm going to do something a little different that I've never done on this channel before, and that is a full rundown of how I set up, maintain, and run my 135 gallon aquarium. So I'm going to talk about the types of products and equipment I use, my maintenance schedule, the types of fish I keep in here, etc. So over the years, people on Facebook and YouTube have asked me how I keep my water so crystal clear with all the fish that I have in here. And the real answer to that is I have no clue. I just set up an aquarium, throw some filters on it, add the fish, and do my water changes. And even I am surprised at how this aquarium stays so clean. Because to me, the tank is overstocked. It is a little bit on the crowded side, but everybody's happy and healthy. And when it comes to water changes, I do my water changes every 2 weeks. Now, from like February of this year up until like 3 or 4 weeks ago when I got rid of my foot-long pleco, I was doing it every weekend, but that was just because of that big pleco creating a lot of waste combined with the like 40 plus other fish in here. But since the pleco's gone, I have gone back to my every 2 week schedule. Now, before then, like for several years, I was doing my water changes either every 2 weeks or once a month. And my tank was still nice and clean, water parameters on point, and no issues whatsoever. Now, when it comes to the products and equipment that I use, I'm probably not going to remember the brands or names of everything, because either I just buy some random stuff and put it on the tank and then I throw away the box and forget what brand they are. And then there's things in here that are so old that I have no idea what brand or model number they were because I forgot. But first I'm going to start with how I budgeted this setup, because you know, aquariums are expensive, especially the bigger they get. Now, a lot of you guys may recognize this stand. This is the same stand from PetSmart that you will see come with their 125 gallon aquariums. And then I have sitting on it a 135 gallon aquarium. So I could have just bought the whole kit or setup from PetSmart, but it was cheaper for me to do it this way because the stand from PetSmart was cheaper than the stand that came with the 135 gallon from the local fish store. But the 135 gallon from the local fish store, they had a discount on it. So it was cheaper than the 125 gallon tank from PetSmart. So if a 135 gallon tank is cheaper than a 125 gallon tank, why not? So by doing it this way, oh yeah, not to mention that I am also using the glass lids and the LED lights from PetSmart too. So by doing it this way, I actually saved over $100. So the best part is this 135 gallon tank is the same exact footprint as the 125 from PetSmart. So it's not hanging over the edges whatsoever. And the only difference between this 135 gallon tank and a 125 gallon tank is the 125 gallon tank is like this much shorter, or somewhere around there. And then, you know, same, so that way the same glass lids fit on it. It fit perfectly on the stand. But these PetSmart stands have a bad reputation, and that's because people have complained about them warping or failing on them. This aquarium has been set up for 5 years. I have had no problems with it whatsoever because the key is to not let it get wet. Now it is a little dirty because, you know, I'm not too worried about cleaning it all the time. The only people that see this aquarium in person are me and my family. And you guys only see it from this perspective. So it doesn't really matter to me much if it gets a little dusty under there and all that. I clean it every once in a while. Yeah, I'm a little lazy when it comes to that. So the water is not as crystal clear as it normally is, just simply because I don't even think you can see the cloudiness on camera, but I just went through the process of replacing some air stones and one of my air pumps. So it did involve me having to dig under the gravel a little bit. And boy, was that back corner dirty. But now let me get into the heating. I swear by these heaters that are made out of this solid black material instead of glass. And these heaters have done me really well in the past like 10, 11 years. This is only my third one. And in the past, I've had bad luck with glass heaters, and my family especially has had luck with glass, or bad luck with glass heaters in the past. My grandparents and my dad have actually shared horror stories of them like sticking their hands in the tank and the water would shock them because their glass heater would break or something. Glass heaters I've used in the past, they would fail on me in less than a year. So these ones last a lot longer. This is an Aquarium Pro 200 watt heater, which was actually made for 75-gallon tanks. But it works perfectly fine in this 135-gallon tank. Now, as for monitoring the temperature, you guys will not see it on camera, but I have this glass thermometer which gives me the accurate reading. And then I have this digital thermometer which is 6 degrees off, but I only use it to temperature match the new water when I'm doing my water changes. So when I'm doing water changes on this tank, I use this one to make sure the new water is the same temperature as the tank, or within 1 or 2 degrees of it. Now, when I do my water changes, first I get a big, large storage container from Walmart, and I get my siphon. I start vacuuming the gravel and drain the water into this large plastic storage bin from Walmart. And then I get a pump and a 25-foot long hose and pump the water out to the bathtub drain. And then once that large storage bin is empty, I rinse out that storage bin, and then I start filling it up with new water and then run the pump from the bathroom from that large plastic storage container full of new water into this tank after I've treated the new water with C-Chem Prime. I swear by C-Chem Prime. If you guys don't know what that is, I'll show you. C-Chem Prime. That is the best water conditioner, hands down. I swear by this stuff. It has done me really well. And I actually use more than I need to just to be on the safe side, because this is California water. God knows what they're putting in our water. But yeah, this is the best water conditioner. And it's almost impossible to overdose your aquarium on it, and I do use more than what I need. Like that large plastic storage container that I fill up, probably about like 30 or 40 gallons, and I put 3 capfuls in that storage container just to be safe, which is enough, more than enough to treat this whole entire tank, really. But I always make sure to treat the new water with C-Chem Prime, dechlorinate it before it ever goes into the new tank. I don't just like run a python from the faucet straight into the tank and then treat it with C-Chem Prime. No, I treat that new water with C-Chem Prime before it ever comes into contact with the aquarium, just to be safe. Now, the filtration that I use, I keep turning this light off and on. Oh, sorry. Just freaked my rose line out there. Okay, let's actually talk about the air pump first. So just today I actually finally replaced one of my air pumps and all of my air stones because it finally quit on me. The old air pump, I actually forgot what brand or model that is, but it was one of those big blue ones that's kind of shaped like an arch. You guys might know what I'm talking about, but I forgot the name of it. That finally gave out on me. So when I replaced it, I actually did something that I've actually never done before, but I should have done it a long time ago. I put check valves on the tubes, on the air lines, just so water doesn't siphon up through the tubes and into the pump. But yeah, I will tell you right now that when it comes to replacing air stones and air pumps, it is a real pain in the ass because it involves digging under the gravel and reaching into the back corner of a big ass tank. So like my arms were going into the tank all the way up, like past my shoulder. And that was not fun. Like I could literally, even then I could barely reach to bury that air stone under the gravel. And this is actually a 12-inch air stone, but for whatever reason, it only wants to come out of this one little part of the air stone. Then back here, I just have these air stones just suction cupped to the wall because I did not want to go through that again. I was being kind of lazy, I'll admit that. But now back to the filtration. Actually, that's the air pump I'm using, some cheap Chinese bullshit from Amazon, same day delivery. The filtration I use, I have 2 of these Eheim 2215s. And these 2 Eheim 2215s are over 10 and a half years old. I've been using these 2 exact ones since I had my old 125 gallon. So I've been using these since the end of 2012, and they've done me really well. Never failed on me, none of that. Meanwhile, all the hang on the back filters I've used, I would have to go through like 1 or 2 a year. But these canisters have done me really well. They work really well. I love them. And when it comes to what I have inside there, I have like, you know, the usual bio media, the bio balls or whatever you want to call them, carbon. Like this is the type of carbon I use. And then this is something I do that's a little different. I have these rolls of filter padding, and I just cut these into little circles and then stuff them into the filter. And it's worked wonders. It's actually worked better than how these filters are set up stock. Now I clean the filters like once every 3 to 5 months or whenever I notice the flow coming out of the output getting weaker. And when it comes to cleaning the filters, no part of my filters ever come into contact with tap water. I always rinse everything with water from the aquarium. I'll literally come in here, get this big 1 gallon pitcher, scoop some water out of the aquarium and rinse all of my filter stuff out that way. No tap water is used in the filter cleaning process because that is how you crash cycles. And if anything else, I'll probably wipe other stuff off with a paper towel. Now, I think I've already talked about how I do my water changes once every 2 weeks, do a 30 or 40% water change every 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to something I will never do again, when it comes to setting up an aquarium, I will never use white gravel again. This is an idea that I had years ago to mimic sand without actually using sand. Because you know how sand has that light coloration to it? Well, I didn't want to use actual sand because I don't like how cloudy it gets, and just like the slightest little disturbance will cloud your water. Or it can get into your filters, or when you're siphoning it, it'll just get sucked right up through the tube. But next time I set up an aquarium, it will not have white gravel. I will use naturally regular colored gravel. No, none of that white shit, none of that clown vomit rainbow shit. Just regular natural gravel. Just like the gravel in my friend's 75 gallon, who I don't talk to anymore. But the other thing is, let's take a look at the other dirty side of my nice clean tank. Yep, I let this shit get dirty because I have no idea what this stuff is. But I don't really wipe it ever because I don't know what it is, and I do not want to risk like accidentally knocking it into the water and having it harm my fish. But I don't know what it is, so I don't mess with it, because in the process of cleaning it, I could end up knocking it into the tank and poisoning all my fish. Now I will like leave the lids on and like wipe this part down, but with the lid still on, so nothing's getting knocked into the water. It is due for a cleaning soon, but I hardly ever clean it because, like I said, you guys only see this part of the tank. So who really cares about this stuff? I wipe it down every once in a while, and I kind of do half-ass it a little bit. Now, when it comes to cleaning my front glass, I'll start off with the inside, the algae cleaning. So ever since I got rid of my foot-long pleco, I have been noticing more algae growing on the glass, because that pleco did a really good job at cleaning up algae, but he was pooping all over the place, and I would see his giant turds all over the bottom of the tank. So he had to go. But now I've been having more algae growth. And I will say that these Pandagaras and these Siamese algae eaters don't do as well of a job as that big pleco did. So I have to use the Magnet of Terror. And the reason why I call this the Magnet of Terror is because these fish are terrified of it. So whenever I'm scrubbing the glass with that Magnet of Terror, all these rose lines and my angelfish go bouncing off the walls. They are terrified of that thing. So I try to limit my use of it to like when the algae growing on the front glass is like starting to become obvious to the point where you can see it on camera. And I only use it on the front glass. I don't really care about the sides because, like I said, I only really shoot videos or watch my tank from this perspective. So I don't care how dirty the back gets or how the sides get. I just want the front to be clean. And I only use it in the spots that I see algae. I will not just start wiping it all over, freaking all the fish out. Only in the spots where I see algae starting to grow, because I don't want to stress my fish out too bad. And especially with these rose lines bouncing off everything whenever I use it, I don't want them to hurt themselves. Then also, when it comes to cleaning the outside of the glass, okay, well, I will say that the reason I use the magnet scrubber instead of getting in there with the scrubber is because I have bad carpal tunnel. And I also do not want like my hands to start cramping up really bad, because if my hands start cramping, boy does it hurt. I have mad carpal tunnel and it sucks. So scrubbing in there with some elbow grease and a scrubber, it hurts my fingers and my hands. Now, when it comes to cleaning the outside of the glass, I use the Deadly Windex. Now, this is gonna freak some people out, but here's how you be smart with it. You wanna make sure your cabinets are closed so it doesn't get on your air pumps, because you don't want it getting into the air pumps and then getting pumped through the bubbles into the aquarium. And you never wanna use it on the top of your tank, on the lids or anything. So what I do is I will spray it no higher than this. So like it's within the bottom half of the tank, spray a little bit, like in this section, this section, this section, and then I will get a microfiber cloth and start wiping it down. Nowhere near the top of the tank. Like, yeah, I'll wipe up, but I will not physically spray it up here. And then when it comes to the glass lids, I only use wet rags, a brush scrubber, and water. No chemicals whatsoever. Strictly water, a brush scrubber, and wet rags. No chemicals, because I do not want to poison the tank, obviously. But that's how I clean the glass. Now, I will continue this in another clip. So stay tuned for part 2, which is coming up in like 2 seconds. This is something I forgot to talk about in the previous 2 clips, but this is what I feed my fish. This right here, Cobalt Aquatics Color Flakes, premium fish flakes. Now, all of my fish will eat these, whereas the old flakes that I used to use, which were the Tetra brand, I used to feed my fish Tetra Color. Half of my fish did not like them, but these, all of my fish eat them and they love them. Now, I have to feed them these before I feed them the other stuff, because if I feed them the other stuff first, they will not eat this stuff. So I feed them this like earlier on in the day, and then later in the afternoon around like 5 p.m. I feed them 2 cubes of these hickory or hikari, however you pronounce it. These frozen bloodworms and spirulina brine shrimp. Now, I give them 2 cubes of the bloodworms and 3 cubes of the spirulina brine shrimp, and as well as like a couple small pinches of the cobalt color flakes in the morning. But they get this stuff in the later afternoon around 5 or 6 p.m. Now, when it comes to feeding, I do have to overfeed a little bit, because I got to make sure my Pandagaras and my Cories get enough food to them, because they are slower eaters and like they'll only eat food off the bottom. Well, the Siamese algae eaters, they'll eat food like right from the water column, but the Pandagaras and the Cories only eat food from the bottom. And these roseline sharks, also known as Dedison barbs, they are pigs. They eat really fast and they eat a lot. These guys are the biggest pigs in my aquarium, and then the rainbow fish are a close second. And because they eat so much and so fast, that if I feed them like a regular normal amount of food, they will end up eating all of the food before it even makes it to the bottom of the tank for my Cories and my Pandagaras. And also, because of these guys, I realized I don't really need my Cories, because these guys actually do the best job at picking food off the bottom of the tank. And sometimes I'll even see these guys like literally jackhammering into the gravel. Like they'll literally, like every time I've tried to film it, they would stop and come right up to the glass, because every time they see me, they think they're gonna get more food. But I would literally see them digging their noses, like literally banging their faces into the gravel, like da 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 da. It's really cool to watch, but I am almost never able to get it on camera. But I'm surprised they don't hurt themselves from banging their faces into the gravel so hard. But it's pretty cool to watch. And then I got the Hikari algae wafers. My Pandagaras love these. Well, all of my fish love these. I usually throw like 2 or 3 of them in my tank at a time, because all of my fish will pile up on top of these things trying to get some bites in. But yeah, the algae wafers, I only feed them these like twice a week, because half the time when they start, like after a while, the fish will start to get tired of them and just leave them there. So I only give them to my fish like twice a week on average, because I don't want these things rotting at the bottom of my tank, but they give up on these things after like 20-30 minutes. But yeah, that's what I pretty much feed my fish. Now on to the rest of the video. Now let's talk about how I set up this aquarium and how I got it cycled almost instantly. So when I first set up this tank, I've previously had my old 125 gallon tall, and that tank was 5 feet long and about this much taller than this tank. And you know, I got really tired of having a hard time reaching down to the bottom of that tank, plus the fact that I bought it used and it was old and scratched up, and there was literally algae growing in those scratches. They were deep scratches in that glass, and the wood frame, the wood trim around the tops and bottom of it were rotting. The old wooden stand was rotting. So I just needed a fresh new tank. But so when I got this tank, obviously budgeted, of course, like I got this tank from a local fish store on a discount, and I got the stand from PetSmart because the stand was cheaper than the stand that came with the 135 gallon tank, and luckily it was a perfect fit. But when I set this tank up, I took half of the water from the old 125 and put it in here. Then I took one of my Eheim 2215 canister filters from that 125 and put it on here. So that way the tank was instantly cycled. And then I put a few fish, just as a precaution. I still waited a few days before adding all of the fish. But once the temperatures were the same and all that, I put a few of the fish from the old 125 in here as test subjects to see if they would do okay, to see if it would be ready for the rest of the fish to come into the tank. So after a few days, those fish were fine. So I completely stripped everything out of the old 125 and put all the fish in here. And I also took the other Eheim 2215 canister filter and put it on here, and boom, the tank was instantly cycled. This tank has actually, in the 5 years I've had it set up, it has never experienced a tank cycle crash, luckily. While my old 125, yeah, it went through like 2 tank cycle crashes, I believe. Now, it's a little noisy because I have this cabinet open. I'm currently charging my phone while I'm recording. So yeah, the tank was instantly cycled. All the fish did great after all the fish were moved into here. Now, these aren't all the original fish from the old 125. That was like 5 years ago. Most of them have passed on from old age. But this one thing I will never do again is that white gravel. I can't stand it anymore, but I am not going to go through the trouble of stripping everything out just to replace gravel, because that would involve me having to take out all the woodwork and the plants and everything, and probably have to even remove all the fish and put them in another place while I'm redoing the whole tank. So I'm not going to go through that. Now, one of the best purchases I've ever made was a wave maker. Now, this is kind of a weak one because I didn't want to have like a huge current just blowing everything in my tank, because I know plants don't really like that, and angelfish and gouramis do not like a lot of flow. So this was only just to create surface agitation, to oxygenate the water mainly. This filter output has a 90 on it, so it's spraying across the surface as well. And yeah, and I don't know what brand of wave maker that is. I just bought one, threw away the box, forgot what it is, but it's for a 30-gallon tank, I believe. And I think that's a little strong for a 30-gallon, because I don't like having like a big current just blowing all the way across the tank. I like the fish to be able to like swim freely without having to fight a current all the time. Sometimes I do see the fish like swimming against the current a little bit, but That's not what the wave maker is for. Now, when it comes to the types of plants and all that in here, all of my live plants, they're all Anubias. I don't know what type of Anubias. I heard there's different types of Anubias, but Anubias are the only plants that I have been able to keep alive. And this is actually my first time ever having a fully planted tank with no artificial plants whatsoever. Because in the past, I always used artificial plants, but strictly green ones. And it was either fake green plants or a combination of fake plants and real plants. But this is all real wood, all real rocks, and all real plants. The only fake thing in here is that little log cave. That's about it. Now, just saw the angelfish freak out for a second. That angelfish is still terrified of me, but anyway. Now, the type of fish I have in here, as you guys know, I love my freshwater sharks. They're not really sharks, but they're called sharks because of their body shape. Now, obviously, you see that I have this big school of 12 roseline sharks, also known as denison barbs. And they are pretty big, especially my two big-ass ones that I have in here. I got this one, who for a while was my largest one. He's about 5 inches, but recently this guy caught up to him. So now these two are the same exact size. Now this one is prettier. I believe this one is a male. And where'd the other big one go? This one, I believe this one is a female. But they are both about 5 inches long. They're about the same size as each other now. And then the rest, they're like 4.5 inches, and then there's 4 like smaller ones in here. But those are my big rose lines. And the reason why I'm careful about aquarium maintenance and all that, the reason why I will not let water go into the new water go into the tank before it has been dechlorinated is because I do not want to risk killing off all my fish, especially my big ass rose lines, because a few of them were already pretty big when I got them. And boy, are they expensive when you buy them already at a large size. As you can see, this one is like the prettiest one. He has like that nice green color on his back. And also, speaking of sharks, I have 2 rainbow sharks and 2 red-tail sharks in here. There's one, the other rainbow shark. There's one of the red-tail sharks. And then I have my largest red-tail shark in here. That one is about 4 inches. I believe it is a female, but only time will tell. I need him or her to mature a little more. Then I will know for sure if it's a male or a female, but that one is the tank boss. But I do like my freshwater sharks. I did have Bala sharks or Bala sharks, however you want to pronounce it, for a while. And those things, personally, I think those guys just get too big, but I like the most I like are the roseline sharks, also known as denison barbs, then the rainbow sharks and the red-tail sharks. Now, what I also have in here is I have 9 of these Bosemani rainbow fish, and their colors aren't showing off all that much right now. But every morning for the first couple hours after I turn on the tank lights, their colors really pop and they actually start spawning with each other. But if you guys watched my last video, whenever one of the females ends up laying eggs or whatever they're doing, these roseline sharks go to town and end up eating all of it. And a lot of my smaller Bosemanis have started to sprout, and it does turn out that I unfortunately have more males than females. I have 5 male Bosemani rainbows and 4 female Bosemani rainbows. And I also have these turquoise rainbows, and I have no idea what gender they are, but one of them is significantly more colorful than the other. But when they hang out in this top portion of the tank, you can't really see their colors all that well for some reason. Their colors mostly pop when they're down here or like right around in the middle, but they always want to hang out by the glass. That's a less colorful one. This is a prettier one, but he's like towards the top at the front of the glass, so he just appears dark. Oh, there he goes, down towards the bottom. There we go, you can see his color's a little bit better there, but the camera does no justice. Then I also have two of these Pracox rainbows, also known as dwarf neon rainbows, and their colors really show poorly on camera, but they're called dwarf neon rainbows for a reason, and with my eyes I can see their colors really well. Then I got that pearl gourami. I got my 4 Siamese algae eaters, and well, no, I have 3 Siamese algae eaters, and these are actually the biggest Siamese algae eaters I've seen in person. They're about 4 inches long, and they are still dwarfed by my big ass rose lines that I have here. But I have heard that Siamese algae eaters grow up to 6 inches, but I have never seen them that big, while I have seen plenty of red-tail sharks and roseline sharks that were in the 6 or 7 inch range. But I have never seen a fully grown Siamese algae eater with my own eyes in person before. So these little 4 inchers that I have here are the biggest I've seen in person. So I snatched them up real quick. Where'd he go? Then I also have 3 Pandagaras as part of my algae cleaning crew, but they don't really seem to be doing that good of a job at cleaning up algae. I guess they just prefer to eat the food that I put in here. Then I have a school of 7 of these Serpae tetras, and these Serpae tetras are personally a fish that I will never waste my time with again, because every time I add them, half of them die within the first week. But the 7 remaining ones I have left have been doing pretty well. But like I said, I would like to have more of them, but I'm not going to waste my money or my time on it, because I already know that if I add more, half of those new ones are going to die within the first week. So I'm not going to bother. Then what else do I have in here? Oh yeah, this angelfish. This angelfish I wanted to be the centerpiece of my tank, but just wants to hide in this corner over here. And actually, he and my largest red-tailed shark have been like roommates. They both would take turns chasing other fish out of this corner of the tank. And so the red-tailed shark chases the other rainbow sharks or red-tailed sharks and the roseline sharks out of this part of the tank, while the angel chases my gourami and sometimes chases the rainbow fish. He's been doing it less and less over the past week or so. So maybe he will become more chill, because I actually don't want this angelfish becoming a demon fish, but I don't want other fish picking on him either. Then I have 4 like 4 or 5 of these bronze cories. I had 5. I don't know if I still have 5 or not, but they're never all out at the same time. So I don't know if there's still all 5 of them in here. I know there's at least 4. And then I also have 2 emerald cories, and 2 of these bronze cories are like really old. Like, I'm talking since like maybe like 2016. Like, they used to live in my old 46-gallon bow front that I used to have. Then one of the emerald cories is also really old, but I wouldn't be able to tell you which of the emerald cories is the new one and which of the emerald cories is the older one, because they look identical to each other. Look at this weird looking roseline. This is what you get when you get golden denison barbs. Some of them will turn out like this. Now the cories, they are part of my bottom feeding crew to clean food up off the bottom, but lately I've learned that I really don't need them, because these roseline sharks or denison barbs do a really good job at cleaning stuff off the bottom of the tank. Even my rainbow fish come down and eat food off the bottom, and the gourami as well. See what else I have in here, because lots of times I'll name like my stock list in my tank, and I'll literally forget about some fish because they're like insignificant. Oh, the electric blue acara. I can't believe I forgot about that one. The electric blue acara is the chosen one. He is the one who will hopefully overthrow the red-tailed shark tyrant. So he's still a little guy. I believe it is a male because of the pointy ends of the dorsal fin. And the reason why I only have one, this also goes for the angelfish. I only have one because I do not want breeding in my tank. And I know that electric blue acaras and angelfish are known to breed like rabbits, and boy do they become aggressive when they breed. So yeah, I decided to keep both the electric blue Akara and the angelfish solo. Yeah. So back to rose lines. One of my favorite fish in the tank are my big ass rose lines. Like I said, my two largest ones are about 5 inches, but even to me, 5-inch rose lines are still average sized rose lines. I've had many that were like 5.5 inches and a couple that were even 6 inches long, but these guys are the stars of the show, either because they're big, because they are among the largest fish in my tank, but also that's because there's 12 of them. And I got that angelfish to be the centerpiece fish of the tank, but he's always in that corner, so he doesn't really stand out. And before I had the angelfish, my Bosemani rainbows were meant to share the spotlight with the rose lines. But the problem is, rose lines grow really fast while rainbow fish grow slow. So yeah, this tank is pretty much taken over by rose lines because they just steal the spotlight from everybody. But it doesn't matter, they're like my favorite fish in the tank. Now, when it comes to having an aquarium, red tail sharks and roseline sharks are a must-have. Now, like I said before, all of my plants in here are Anubias. They are the only plants I've had luck with keeping alive. If you can let me know in the comments below what other types of live plants are just as strong and hardy as Anubias, because I would like to beef up the variety of plants in my tank. But I do need to figure out what I want to do with this left side of the tank. I don't know if I want to leave it the way it is for swimming room purposes, or if I want to put something over here. But it looks like my fish do appreciate the swimming room, because these rose lines are really active. They're always on the move, so they do need swimming space. So maybe I'll just leave it alone. And over here, not that many fish like to hang out over here, and that's because of the red tail shark tyrant who owns this part of the tank. But yeah, that's pretty much the rundown of my 135-gallon aquarium. So like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys in the next video.